Trillions of dollars of Canadian wealth is going to vanish over the next decade. Now, there are many reasons why this is going to happen. Some conspiracy-based, some factual. Let's break it all down in this video. Now, the first reason for this is because of boomers. No, it's not necessarily boomers' fault, although it is. But in reality, it's that they're exiting the marketplace and they own the vast majority of businesses right now. So as they begin to retire, they're going to want to sell these businesses for their retirement. Maybe this is their version of their pension for a lot of these entrepreneurs. But the reality is a lot of millennials, and especially Gen Zs, the way the trend is going, they don't want to be business owners. So they might not be able to sell off the vast majority of these businesses that the boomers want to sell off because there's no buyers. Millennials are broke, Gen Zs are broke, they're all unhappy, and they don't even want to own the business like I mentioned. See, there's this new term called a wagee, and it's dominating millennials and Gen Z. Now, a wagee is someone who just goes to work, shows up, does their job, and leave. They're unfulfilled, they're unhappy, they hate their job, and they're only working there for a paycheck to somewhat support themselves in this new crazy inflation world.
They have no ambition, they don't want to own anything, they don't want to do the extra mile.
Like Gen X and boomers have been taught to do, they just want to go in and go out and go party and maybe get 2 weeks a year to go to Miami. That's it. Now, the other reality is that boomers right now are about ages 65 to 70. So in reality, well beyond retirement age, and they're still working. And the majority of the trade workforce right now is heavily dominated by boomers. So you got concrete guys, bricklayers, tile setters, framers, like very hard, laborious, active jobs. And these boomers are getting old. They physically can't do the job anymore. And in the coming 3-5 years max, the vast majority of boomers are going to be retired, which means the trade industry is just going to get hit so much harder. Now, you can see this as an opportunity that if you are a millennial or a Gen Z and you want to become a carpenter, a plumber, an HVAC installer, man, what an opportunity you're gonna have. But on a whole, for the Canadian society, it's gonna be rough. Reason number 2 is that the pandemic killed off a lot of businesses, especially brick and mortar businesses. So restaurants, small retail shops, movie theaters, a lot of these businesses got obliterated and they're not coming back. Now, the reality is the bigger businesses that got hit, Walmart, Costco, let's be real, they got government bailouts to make sure they will be okay, but the small and pop little retail shops, obliterated. Now, many entrepreneurs own these businesses with the intention of either passing this business on to their kids one day or selling it for a profit and giving it to their children one day. But with so many of these businesses being wiped out and the entrepreneurs literally being traumatized, never wanted to get back into business after this, they just left it, potentially went bankrupt, took what little profit they could get, and called it a day. Now, on the flip side, tech businesses like Uber and Amazon took advantage of this pandemic and drastically grew their business because less and less people want to go into shops, go to physical stores, they just want to order from their home and have their food brought to them like lazy fat people. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the same thing. I'm a lazy fat person, I guess. But this is just the reality of the changing economy and the changing world. These brick and mortar businesses got obliterated and there's no reason for them to come back anymore. Because how can you compete with Jeff Bezos? You can't. Reason number 3, and I kind of touched on it, is that succession planning isn't even in the mix. Meaning Gen Zs and young millennials want to be techies. They don't want to be welders and plumbers and carpenters like their parents. So these skills, these businesses are likely going to die off as well. Now, I can tell you this firsthand as well because about 10 years ago, I owned my own contracting business. See, after high school, I did my apprenticeship as a carpenter and I started my own renovations business specializing with other investors in the Kitchener-Waterloo area to renovate their rental properties. And even then, it was so hard for a lot of these investors to find good quality contractors, especially one that knew about real estate investing and understood their wants and needs. And that was 10 years ago when boomers were still like 55 and still totally able to work. And as I look around at my parents, at my in-laws, at my friends' parents, like there's no way these boomers can be picking up bricks and slugging concrete. And honestly, every time I see a boomer slugging concrete, it's like clearly 65, 70 years old, it pains me in the heart. Because I'm 35 and able to retire like 5 times over from real estate investing, and these boomers are still slugging because they have to. Maybe they should subscribe to the Fruitful Investing channel. Well, maybe they should have like 30 years ago, but I wasn't on here yet. Now, the next issue why billions and potentially trillions of dollars are going to leave the Canadian economy is because taxes are too fucking high. Now, you hear me rant about this on my channel over and over again, but this is a reality to business and the economy. When you make working hard not an incentive because taxes are so high and half your money goes to taxes, nobody wants to innovate things. Nobody wants to start a business or grow a business, let alone hire employees, take on the risk, only to give half of their money to the government. What is the point? I mean, you might as well live on welfare, just chill in like a little tiny home in Sturgeon Falls, Ontario, and live the good life. Why even work? See, this whole tax the rich and give it to the rest doesn't work. Now, you might like Donald Trump, you might hate Donald Trump, but his whole glory of trickle-down economics does work. I'm telling you, from being around all these high-end business owners, being a real estate investor like I am, not to sound too narcissistic, but we are the job creators of the economy. I have a business. I have 13 employees. I'm the job provider. I have rental housing. I am the housing provider. So if the government were to somehow, I don't know, make it easier for me, lower taxes, it would incentivize me to grow my business, to hire more employees who will then pay their taxes. It would incentivize me to own more rental properties, provide more housing. But with knowing what I know now, after buying and selling over 150 properties, all in Canada, I'm looking over at Texas and Florida like, hey, you guys are pretty sexy down there with your 0% tax rate. And myself and so many of the top investors here in Canada pretty much are all leaving and going down to the US and providing housing in Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, because of their great low taxes and having more control over your property with the landlord-tenant board, unlike Ontario, where the tenants rule the world. See, when you make it hard to do business, the rich people, the doers, the business owners, the housing suppliers, they leave. And what happens when they leave? Housing gets more expensive. Why? Economics 101. When you lower the supply, the demand doesn't lower. We're still getting droves and droves of people from immigration, people coming into this country. Millennials are having kids. The population is growing. There's a need for housing. The demand is actually growing like crazy, but when you lower supply, it's the perfect recipe for bidding wars, for rental prices to skyrocket, for home prices to skyrocket. So before you say some shitty comment like I always get in my videos like,
Get the fuck out of here, Matt.
good riddance, go to Florida, we don't need you anyway. Reality is, you do need me, motherfucker. If guys like me keep on leaving, you have to pay more. See, now look, if you're a Liberal or an NDP voter, you need to realize that your side's policies are making it harder for the middle class and lower class, not better. While all these policies sound good, like UBI, like taxing the rich, like a vacant home tax in Toronto, what you don't understand about business economics is that all those higher costs get passed on to the customer. And if you're a renter or a home buyer, you're the customer. In a nutshell, Liberals and NDPs make it worse for the middle class, not better. It sounds cooler with political theater, but it's worse for you. Issue number 5, why so much money is going to leave Canada, is just straight up technological advancement. I mean, with programs and apps like ChatGPT literally being able to replace people, especially in the marketing industry, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we're literally steps away from having cabs drive themselves in Teslas. Self-driving cabs. That's fucking crazy to think about, but we're literally probably like 5 to 10 years away max from that happening. From having a car pick you up without a driver and bring you to your destination safer than any human driver could ever do. That's coming. Now imagine what other jobs are going to be replaced with that kind of technology. It's insane. Now the next reason why Canada is going to lose so much money and so much talent is that digital nomad visas are becoming more and more popular and enticing to the new generation, to millennials and Gen Zs. Millennials and Gen Zs are about to be the entire workforce in the next 3 to 5 years. And these generations highly value, their life, their free time, and their environment. Less and less people, from what I'm seeing anecdotally, but it's all across the board, less people want to live in Canada. Not only because Canada is becoming a shitty country under Trudeau, just the fact of where it is. It's too cold. Like 9 months of the year in Canada, honestly, suck. You only get like 3 to 4 months a year that are good. They are now moving and working from countries like Dubai, who have a 0 tax rate, countries like Bali, super nice all year long, Australia, who have a very generous visa program for Canadians who pretty much anyone qualifies for a minimum of 1 year. That's pretty cool. We are losing talent to nicer, warmer, and better countries who have better tax systems. See, millennials and Gen Zs, say what you want, they're getting savvier and smarter because they grew up with this thing called Google where they can research about the world, not having to settle for just living and working where you were born and you will die there. Canada sucks. It's cold. Taxes are so high. No reason to be here. Now, the next issue with Canada is that financing is a fucking joke. I mean, me being a real estate investor, trying to get financing to buy properties is like pulling teeth to the 9th degree. I don't know what 9th degree means, but it's impossible to get financing. Whereas in America, they're open for business. If I want to buy real estate, if I want to buy a multifamily building, all I have to do as the investor is prove to the bank that it's going to be a good investment based on comparables. I'm paying this much for the property. My financing with you is going to cost this much a month, but this is how much the property rents for. See this? This is how much money it's going to make. And the bank goes, duh. Thanks for explaining that to me, Matt. Here's the mortgage. It makes sense. It's business. In Canada, they don't care about business. It's all about, let me see your tax returns. Can you afford it? What if something goes wrong? Can you carry this entire multifamily building mortgage on your own? No, nobody could. But the likelihood of just the entire building not being rentable is like impossible. It's never going to happen. Think in reality, dude. Canadian banks, as good as they are for some reasons, are too conservative, too safety-based, and it's halting the growth of Canada like you wouldn't believe. And this financing nightmare extends well beyond real estate. This is the same for businesses who want to get a loan, buying a car, buying anything you want for your business or your life. Financing is a joke. And being an investor and entrepreneur, I can tell you, obviously, the money flows where it's easiest. And the money's just pouring out of Canada, going to the US, going to Dubai especially. This is where the trend is going. Maybe the government of Canada should look a little more to trends and go, why is everybody leaving? Why is everybody going to Dubai? Why is everybody going to Florida? Instead of just shitting on them, Florida has stupid laws. They suck. Stop name calling like a 4th grader and understand the trend. Why are people going to these countries? Low taxes and more freedom. That's why. Maybe we should do the same before it's too late. Issue number 8, the regulatory burden. Regulation, 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 taxes, 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 carbon tax this, red tape that. That's Canada. Try to build a home. Try to do anything in this country is insane. It takes forever. Quick example, building a home in Canada can take up to 9 to 10 months, maybe even a year, just to get your permits, and the charges, the development charges, can cost as much as $17,000 for the average single-family home in Canada. That's what it cost a builder just to build one house. Now, to do the exact same thing in Florida, for example, the permits take 3 to 4 weeks. It's the same house, 3 to 4 weeks, and the development charges are as low as $500. We are uncompetitive. We're not sexy enough as a country. The government needs to get their hands out of our pockets, move out of the way, and let the private sector be the private sector. And last but not least, quality of life. Like I said, it's cold like 9 months a year. Taxes are through the roof. Inflation in Canada is absolutely insane. House prices cost so much money for no reason. They're not based in reality or based on fundamentals. It's just unsexy to live here. And this is why we got to turn things all the way around, go to a more capitalistic society, get out of the way, let the private sector innovate, incentivize them to innovate and grow via lower taxes, and maybe, just maybe, Canada will be okay.